Welcome to Confessions of an Entrepreneur, powered by RG. My name is Carl Swansbury, and I'm absolutely thrilled today to welcome Anthony Hutton onto my podcast. Many of you may feel Anthony's name is familiar, and if so, that is absolutely right. Anthony first appeared on our TV screens when he not only took part in Big Brother, but indeed took first prize to win Big Brother. For years after, Anthony absolutely rode the wave of celebrity success, appearing on many game shows, TV shows, and on the front cover of many magazines. But that success did slowly start to evaporate, which encouraged and in fact forced Anthony to repurpose, find his now why, and that took him into becoming a barber before, through lived experience, really appreciating the importance of mental health. And since then, Anthony has built a significant business, both in the Northeast and further afield, raising the awareness of and indeed providing a support network to men who have mental health challenges or perhaps want to support those who do. Even though I feel I know Anthony as a consequence of seeing him often on TV or perhaps in magazines or similar, I'm really looking forward to getting to know the real man behind the person we all know today. So as a consequence, I'm delighted you, our viewers, can be with us. Anthony, can I just say personally, I'm absolutely delighted today to meet you for the first time and to have you on my Confessions of an Entrepreneur podcast. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I always think it's a privilege to be asked to be on the podcast. So thank you very much for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. And of course, many of our viewers may know you, some of our viewers may not, but definitely the majority of our viewers will definitely recognize you from Anthony from Big Brother. So I've got to start by asking a question. Why Big Brother?
Oh, why Big Brother? So I think it comes from ultimately being driven. So when I was a young boy, all my life growing up was basically on a mission to try and be a footballer. Deludedly thought I was going to be a footballer, and it resulted in not being a footballer, and I didn't have any education, anything like that. Signed on the dole, and then the first job that I got was being a postman. Was doing that job, and just, you know, when you just know that you've got more.
That's right.
And I was just racking my brain of like, how can I be more successful? And university wasn't an option. I was never an academic.
Because you didn't feel that you were going to prospect in a classroom environment, or because actually from an academic perspective, you just don't learn in that way?
I just had zero interest in it.
Right, okay.
Absolute zero interest. I really struggled with it. And I was just extremely sporty, right, and excelled in sports. And that was my thing. So, and the option not to turn up at university, being a party boy would have been too irresistible. So I was like, I'll just not turn up. And this coincided with Big Brother. This program called Big Brother. I always remember watching the first one and became fascinated with it and became a fan. And then the thought process of, if I get on there, that could potentially change my life up. And the kind of the obsessive traits that I had trying to be a footballer, I would probably say went into that, found out where the auditions were, and steamrolled there on a mission to, I wasn't there messing about. I was there to get on the show. So sorry if that's a long-winded answer, but that's where it comes from. I think it comes from I was actively trying to change my life up.
Yeah, so you saw Big Brother as an opportunity to change your life. You probably didn't appreciate then in what way your life would change, but for sure you saw it as a platform for something bigger.
Absolutely. And there was I was a big fan, like loved it, and I just thought that would be an awesome experience.
Wow, Wow. Okay. And we'll come back to your big brother experience a little later in the conversation, if you don't mind, Anthony.
Absolutely.
So let's just go right back to the beginning. So obviously you said as a young lad, the only thing you saw yourself doing was playing professional football.
Yeah.
So how close did you get to making it?
In reflection, not too close, to be honest. Not too close. Got to the point where I was like writing to clubs, trying to get trials and stuff. Really, like I was a really good footballer. I had very much me grandma, me mum, and my uncle David literally followed me all around. And so, in reflection, probably not too close, to be honest. But I just thought I was, because I wanted it so much, I just thought it's going to come off. It's going to come off. But you with a loss, I've got, a lot of the success that I've got, I always still put it down to that the sporting backgrounds that I've got, that you get beat, you go again, and I've translated that into my life as a business owner.
Yeah. Well, as you say, I think anyone who's good at sport to a high level, professional, not is disciplined, understands structure, absolutely holds themselves to account, because you've got to bring yourself every day in the best version of. So you say that definitely will have bled into everything you've done since.
Yeah.
So even though you could, on one hand, say that you invested a lot of time pursuing football and didn't make it, actually, perhaps you become the man you are as a consequence of not making it at football. So
yeah, absolutely.
At all. And at what age was it when you sort of acknowledged that perhaps you weren't going to be a professional footballer and therefore had to sort of pivot towards something else? When did that realization really land?
Yeah. So it was the last year of junior football, and in my head it was like, this is your last year of getting picked up. I remember we played Newcastle United youth team, and again that was like, I was thinking, this is my opportunity to get seen. I played out of my skin that game, and I thought, are they going to come calling, are they going to come knocking? Didn't happen, and then I broke my ankle halfway through the season, and I remember literally crying my eyes out on the night. I deliberately was in a cast, and it was kind of like that self-awareness was like, you're not going to be a footballer here. And then I started playing back end of the season, and it was getting into Northern League football, which again was a big step up from being a boy and then into Northern League. Got myself into a Northern League team, and at this point, so I was mega sensible. So never drank, never smoked, wasn't particularly interested in girlfriends, because I was literally,
It was all about
football.
Lovely.
Then got my first taste of a night out.
Ooh.
And was like, I was like, ooh,
That's right. The was lifted.
I like this environment, and started going out, and then it just, sailed away, and then next thing I was a postman.
Wow. And as you say, the focus that you had definitely today will have got you where you are at. But question, if you weren't perhaps distracted by women, nights out and everything that comes with it, do you think you could have made it, or actually did you know then you couldn't, and that's why you allowed you to drop yourself?
I think the realization of you're not good enough, and in reflection now, I mean, absolutely, simply not good enough. The standard of being a footballer. But what I will say is, though, so I was a Newcastle United season ticket holder as a young boy, in the Gallagher end. At this point, it was when it used to stand. But me and my best mate John, our parents shared a season ticket, so one of them would always take us, and we used to sit on the wall. And I always literally visioned. I always told myself, I was like, yeah, again, slightly deluded. I'm going to play here. I'm going to play here. And the Big Brother experience helped me get that experience. So I have played in front of the 52,000 capacity on
Sims as well.
twice, and my pub brag got man of the match both years.
Oh, incredible.
So I managed to still tick that box of playing in front of the 52,000 on Sky, which was a little win, because I remember stepping out going, I remember, and I see my parents and I was like, I always seen this happening. Yeah. I haven't made it, but one way or another, you still managed to get...
One way or another, you have made it.
Yeah, well, not as a footballer, but I'm very big on, I remember when I first read the book The Secret.
Yes.
And I was like, I've been doing this for years. Like that positive visualization. I was convinced I was going to win Big Brother. And again, some people will think I'm mad. I was convinced I was going to win. It was in my thought process. It was that one-dimensional tunnel vision. And again, the sporting background. As soon as I was on, I wanted to win. I was, it was a 3-month, back then in 2005, it was, you were in there for 3 months, cooked up in a house, and it was how you seen it. We did not speak to anyone. We didn't speak to, it was only housemates, and we were cooked up in that house. No TVs, no phones. So a lot of people, started struggling with the process. Me, I'll be honest, I didn't find it difficult, because I was like, well, you have to be here. You have to be here till the end because you want to win. So that was my mindset.
You talk about The Secret, and of course, Rona Byrne is the author of The Secret, and I've met her twice.
Oh, right. Wow.
Phenomenal.
Wow.
And I actually met her in San Francisco when she released her second book, The Power.
Right.
At the book signing. And as you said, the Secret is all about manifestation. It's all about law of attraction. So as long as you think about what you want to achieve, but you really believe that you are capable of achieving, you will.
Yeah.
Question, because you sort of partially said you believe in manifestation, but do you think that ability is more important than ambition? Because of course, as you say, you couldn't have been more ambitious, but yet you didn't become a professional footballer. So just talk me through how you sort of square that circle. Because a lot of people say, as long as you visualize it, it will become that's reality. But
you've got to have, there's a lot of things you have to have in place. I think the first step is there's got to be the self-belief.
Yes.
That is the first step, but there's a hell of a lot more steps to take into it coming off.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to sport, ability is huge. So there's a number of ingredients that you need to have for the success, but the first one is you've got to have that self-belief. You've got to have that.
Yeah, I agree. And you'll have met over the years loads of people who've got so much ability, so much talent, but because they don't have the confidence or the self-belief, they don't actually use the skills they've got successfully.
Yeah.
So as you say, you do need belief and ability.
Yeah.
Full measure, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like the I do a lot. I'm my main source of work is keynote speaking, but speaking that you can have someone with so much knowledge, so much ability, so much skill set, but if they're put in a room and their talking is only a 3 out of 10, they're going to get rated at 3 out of 10.
That's right.
Even though they might have actually so much ability, but they're not confident. They've got a lot of self-doubt. That will shine through more than the ability. So there's a lot of things you've got to have in your locker, to be successful.
Totally. So obviously you mentioned that you enjoyed the Big Brother experience when perhaps some of your fellow housemates were crumbling under the pressure and intensity of the situation. What do you think is the one thing that you had that those who struggled didn't have?
I think a number of things. I think So the psychologist, after we seen a psychologist afterwards, I think a lot of my personality traits were probably lended to the process. I'm extremely laid back. Again, me wife will tell you that I'm, they could tell me the world's going to end and I'd say I'm just going to finish my coffee. I'm that type of guy. So I'm extremely composed. So it takes a lot to wind me up. You've got to do something really bang out of order to wind me up.
Have you always been that way?
I've always been that way. It's just me natural, me natural makeup. So I've always been nice. My grandma, I'll never forget. My grandma, there's a quote that my grandma always used to say to me. Very simple quote. It's nice to be nice, and I've always lived by that. And I've always grown up as a boy in class, and just always gravitated of having lots of friends. And it's something that I've always had echoed through my life of, oh, he's a nice lad, him. So I've always had that. So and then combined being a Geordie, we always do well on reality TV shows. And a fun fact in terms of winning it, inside a week. So back then it was down to public vote. Who's going to win? Inside a week, my granny racked up a £4,000 phone bill.
Are you serious?
£4,000 phone bill.
Awesome.
And the very first words that I screamed out. So when I won, I jumped up, ran round, and I literally went like this, Granny Hutton, I did it. And she replied in a sitting room saying, thank God you can pay the phone bill. So I had some good attributes and a dedicated granny to help win the show.
And is there anything that you learned about yourself that has been valuable in your life since, that you didn't have when you walked into the house?
Ooh, that's a good question. And I actually got asked that question off Davina McCall, actually, when I done my interview, literally leaving the house. And she asked me that question. And I actually said, I haven't really learned anything, because how I have been in the house, I knew I was going to be like that.
Yes.
But in reflection, there probably is some lessons to take. Probably more validation, I would say, rather than learned. It was probably more validation. I knew I was going to be like this. I knew I was going to be like that. And I was quite comfortable with any situation that I got presented. I always thought, one of the other questions I got asked before I went on the show, that what's your plan? They said, what's your plan?
Is in your sort of plan for the show?
Yeah,
sort of
going in, yeah.
Yeah.
And my answer was, my plan is to have no plan. That is my plan. I just went in there with an open mind and to have fun.
Yeah.
And I think if you go in with them fundamentals, the rest will, the result will take care of itself.
Interesting. And we'll talk a little later about sort of precision of thought versus overthinking. But for now, just one last question about Big Brother. So obviously you said you went into Big Brother with the objective of changing your life, providing yourself with a new direction of travel. So when you left the Big Brother house, what was your then plan? What were you looking for, and what were you expecting to see happen?
Yeah. There's probably a contrast of answers what I'm going to say here, because I've said to you, I was going in with a specific, I'm going to change my life for. And that was the case. In terms of specifically what I was going to do, that was extremely loose-ended. There was a big part of me, I just thought, if I get on, things are just going to happen. Good things will happen. And they did. And so it was, like I said, there's a contrast of answers there. I was going in specifically changing my life up. How I was going to do it, I was kind of loose-ended. I was just ready to seize any opportunity that came my way. As long as I wasn't heavily compromising myself,
Yes.
I was up for doing it. And I knew there was a window of making money. So let's jump on it.
Fair. So tell me a little bit about the opportunities, Anthony, that presented themselves, and therefore how you went about deciding which to pursue or not.
I mean, I pretty much said yes to everything. I'll be honest. So, I mean, I remember I signed with an agent. The first day was, and I tell this story many times, but, it's the same story, and it's a good story. So the first day that I got out was equally as crazy as the night. The night was when I came out as winner. It was, a very surreal thing, because it was on this huge pedestal, and then it was almost, I felt like I was like on some form of movie where I was like got announced as the winner, come out to fireworks, people were holding posters of my name in my picture. It was mind blown. The next day, I'd had a load of agents wanting to sign me. Signed with the agent, the recommended one, and within an hour I'd signed an OK photo shoot where I was getting £200,000, whisked off to a mansion with a swimming pool, and done a photo shoot and in an interview. So instantly it was just like wallop.
Yes.
Like, this is ridiculous. And then it was stuff like, will you do PAs? I was like, what are they? You're going to get paid to go to the nightclubs. Where do I sign up?
That's right.
Like,
I was going anywhere, so
yeah,
you'll pay me to do it.
Yeah. And then there was like, but then there was a couple of TV programs that I specifically wanted to do. There was The Match, which was this football program, played at St. James's Park. Obviously, the football background, I was like, get me on that. There was Strictly Come Dancing. So my background, I don't know whether this is in your notes, but my background is I used to be a 70s disco dancer as well, called Chico Importante from Puerto Rico. The face of Colgate 1977, teeth of whiteness, arse of tightness.
Oh, God.
Yeah, true, all true.
Well, yeah.
So I was like, well, I can dance, so get me on there. They wouldn't have me on because at the time, Big Brother had a tag of, they're not real proper celebrities. So there was a bit of a snobbery around, so that I got knocked back doing that one. And then whatever opportunity presented itself, really, I was, if it was good money, I brought out a 70s disco DVD workout one.
Wow, that fair.
That was, I mean, it was
I've not seen that. And
terrible.
It's an Amazon bestseller, but
Terrible.
Sort of go down.
Well, it was expensive when it first started. I think you can get it for £1 now on Amazon, or on eBay. But it started off out. It was with Universal, so it was with a really credible organisation, and it was $17.99.
Wow.
And we filmed it on a flashing 70s disco Saturday Night Fever. It was terrible. It's honestly, looking back, it's like, I mean, my best man, when he done the speech, he just basically got the DVD up on a slide and just, I don't even need to be funny. Let's just watch this. Everyone was howling. So yeah, there was just there was lots of different opportunities that presented itself, and I was just enjoying the ride.
I was losing it at the time. Was it
loving
it? We were in
loving it.
New lifestyle and
Loving
obviously earning a fortune, right? Doing things that evidently you're just very good at, given
I was loving it.
how you carry yourself.
Yeah, I was absolutely absolutely loving it. Just enjoying the ride, and I was a very naive. I was in my early 20s when I'd done it, a bit dim, probably, in reflection. Didn't really overthink stuff. So I was a bit numb to, like, I didn't think about too deep into it. I was just like, yeah, I'm getting paid to go to a nightclub. We're here, there, everywhere, just enjoying the ride.
But don't you think if you had overthought it, you probably wouldn't have done half the things you did? So actually, sometimes I think there is something quite inspiring about just putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
In the hope that, hey, the harder you work, the luckier you get, perhaps.
Yeah. I think sometimes you can be a much better version of yourself when you're older, but you become a lot more cautious as well. So sometimes that can have sometimes a negative effect where you're not so much of a risk taker.
Right.
But when I mean, I've always been a risk taker, still am. I always will. I kind of look at it, anyone who's had major success have probably been risk takers.
Agree. So obviously, after Big Brother, you spend months and months, as you say, doing magazine shoots, appearing on different shows, maybe turning up at nightclubs, and being completely, I'm sure, consumed by all of the female audience in the booth. At what point did you start to either question whether that's what you wanted to do on an open-ended basis, or when did that stop? When did the music start to slow down?
Yeah, so I managed to churn out a living for a good few years. I was still I'd be doing a pantomime over the Christmas period. So, but there was in reflection there was a decline from, say, the first year, the second year. The realization, and again I say this many times, but the realization of there's no work coming in. I've messed up here. I'm going to have to get a normal job, and basically I ended up in really bad financial difficulties. The realization of having to get a normal job terrified me, because for a long period of time my identity, the ego, and everything with it was, I was the guy from Big Brother. I was pointed at as, I was the winner of Big Brother. Something that I've always tried to be is I've always tried to be a winner. So that became an extremely difficult period of my life. A lot of people ask me about, it's the coping from the fear. Mine was, I was cool with that. Mine was actually the coming out of doing a reality TV show. That was the difficult part.
And what was your agent saying at the time? Because of course, I'm sure, 1 minute after leaving Big Brother, your hot property, the agent is absolutely your newest, bestest friend. How supportive was your agent when the work started drying up?
So it got to the point where I was calling the agent wasn't calling me.
So the relationship's the wrong way around, pretty sure.
Yeah. And then it basically, I can't specifically remember, but this agent had they had some high profile people. There was like Davina McCall, Dermot O'Leary, Russell Brand. They had a lot of names. So then when I basically the profile on my end basically started to drop, one way or another, it was like, you should get another agent, a lower tier one. So it progressed like that, and like I said, it got to the point where literally there was nothing coming in, and the realization, like I've mentioned, shit, of what's going on now.
And must have been times where you were quite depressed, because of course you went from, as you say, being really high profiled, someone who was being invited to do lots of different speaking gigs, lots of different events, being on the front page of OK Magazine, to almost being cast to one side. I mean, that must have been hard to take, and of course, talk about a blow to confidence. So was there a point where you found yourself really unstuck? Did it go that far?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It got really bad in terms of, like, I was bitter and depressed. So at this point I'd missed 5 mortgage payments of the house, which was the only thing that I had to showcase for any form of success. So the my headspace was how on earth did you manage to get so much success, fame, and money, and now you're approaching your late 20s, and you've got absolutely no direction. I completely and utterly felt like a loser, because I just thought, how do you manage to get all of that, and you've got nothing now?
And where did all of the capital go that you'd accumulated from doing all of these big, well-paid gigs? And where does the money go?
I was extremely generous with my money, with my family. I bought an uncle a £90,000 house. I was going to Vegas. Again, so stupid, but I was a working class young man who came into a lot of money. So probably a lot of similar mistakes have been made. I spent £45,000 outright on a Range Rover. I've never spoke to my dad, so I didn't have a. If I had me now, and that my lad had done that, I'd be like, look, son, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So in reflection, I didn't have I had a very loving family. Me mum and grandma, who have always been my rocks, been drenched with love, were amazing. But in terms of like solid, some real good advice.
Yeah, it's a sub-love.
Yeah, I didn't have that, and I was just a daft lad. So, and again, wasn't expecting an enormous tax bill. That was like, oh, what? Really? Does this happen? Just a lot of errors.
Right.
But, and I get asked this question: would I change anything? I don't think I would. I don't think I would, because they've carved my life journey and who I am today.
Totally right. Exactly. And obviously, as you say, there was a tough time where you were depressed and didn't know what you were going to do next, and probably asking a lot of questions about purpose and, well, why be here? Will my luck come good again? What was the turning point? Was there a moment, or was there a thing, or was there a person whereby actually the direction of travel changed for you?
I'd got in such a bad headspace. There was an element. There was two things. One, there was some self-awareness, which I feel lucky that I've had. Lucky to have had a loving, supportive family, and an element of there was probably like a stroke of luck as well. So I knew something had to change, and I got there was a guy who I'd worked with in the hair industry, and he reached out and said he was opening a salon in Darlington, and he's going to be looking to open a barbershop in Darlington. Would you like to get involved in this? And that was the green light that I needed. There was something. So I had to get away from the acquaintances that I was hanging around. The environment of people that I was with was very not good, not positive at all. So I was living in Newcastle, and the move to Darwin, where I didn't know anyone, there was something in my head where that just told me, that said, you just need a fresh start. You need to get away from this crowd, and you need some form of direction. And that's what I done. And I moved into this house. I'll never forget, I've got such a sweet connection to this house. It's 33 East Raby Street. I had to house share. It was a rough street. Moved in there, and I remember I'd got the first job, and I'll never forget this. The rain was falling down, and I was walking to work, and I just felt so happy to be alive. And I was if you looked at me, I was in a really bad spot. Whereas I was house sharing in this quite rough street. I was, working, sweeping floors. I had to learn my skill set as a hairdresser. again. But I knew it was the right move. I knew it was the right move. And that turned out to be one of the best moves I ever made, because I instantly was in a better place. I had some form of direction. I met my now wife in that salon, and then my life started building momentum again. So I have this in one of my slides when I do talks, and it's like, take action and change things on.
And obviously, you've mentioned that you were in a small house sharing with other people. What happened to your house that you...
Luckily enough, I managed to basically get help from my family.
Right.
And I kept the house.
Right.
And then I ended up renting it out.
Okay.
So yeah, very, very fortunate. And I think that's one of the things why I've got a lot of empathy of doing the work that I do now. If I ever hear someone struggling, there was one young man that I helped, and he didn't have the support of family, and so I was really conscious of, like, I would love to try and help you, because I actually had a family, and some people don't have that.
Talking about, it's easy to take it for granted when you've always had it. But as you say, some people don't have that luxury. So if people need support, you've got to provide it. So obviously, as you say, getting the job at the barbers gave you a real new purpose. Of course, met your now wife, likewise. Just to sort of leapfrog a little. So when did you start to become involved in public speaking and coaching? How did you get from barbershop to there?
Great. This is my best story, my absolute best story. So for me, it's been on the life journey of having my own struggles. Then it came to being a full-time barber, and I had me own shop, it was a bar as well. Realizing the barber chair was a very, very unique to have conversations with men. There's like multiple real deep, impactful things that I'd done in working in the hair industry with helping men who were really struggling.
Okay.
So there was, because of those two things, there was always this want, and empathy of wanting to help with that, because I'd been in similar place on that field of men's mental health.
Yes.
And then then what happened was the passing of my grandma. And I had the most beautiful relationship with my grandma. I held her hand literally on her last breath when she passed. And when there was conversations that came about organising a funeral, there was conversations that came about who's going to do grandma's eulogy. And I requested to the family, I said, let me do the eulogy. And locked myself away for a couple of days on end. And it was like therapy for me. Started writing this amazing woman's story. And right at the end, I started getting upset because I had to start talking about her cancer and her passing. And the fighting spirit in me and the positive person in me told me that her story's not going to end on a negative. Her story's going to end on a positive. And the project that I've set up, Never Throw in the Towel, strapline, keep on living, those are the words that I used right at the end of my grandma's eulogy. And I used the words, she never threw in the towel. That was describing her fighting spirit towards getting stage 4 cancer. And I started talking about how amazing she was and how inspiring she was with such adversity. When I finished the eulogy, there was a gentleman waiting for me outside the church who'd attended the funeral. I'd never met this guy. This guy was in floods of tears. And he grabbed my hand and he said, thank you so much for that eulogy. He said, your grandma was an absolutely amazing woman and she would be very, very proud of you. And I was like, you know, specific. I was like, wow, that guy he's so upset. He's coming from such a deep place. And then the same night I was at my grandma's house in the living room. Never forget it. You know, in the walls of where I grew up. And my mum was with me as well. And, you know, we were just going down memory lane and stuff. And then my phone pinged, got a message, opened it up, and it was the same gentleman that was waiting for me outside the church. He sent this big long message sharing with me that he'd been feeling suicidal to the point where he was having to go and seek professional help from stuff that was going on in his life. He started opening up about that, and then right at the end of his message, he just said, "I just need to let you know that I am clinging on to the words, never throw in the towel, that you spoke about your grandma." And I got goosebumps. And then there was a fire that got lit. There was a real fire that got lit, and I literally just started being, again, these obsessive traits in me. Started Googling how can you speak? How can you, you know, keynote speaking? Started looking into it. Messaged a couple of agencies, didn't get anything back. Then coincidentally got contacted from a woman called Holly Matthews, and who I'd done pantomime with many years ago. Hadn't spoke to her for years, and she basically asked me to be on the panel of this event she's throwing called the Happy Me Project. And I started asking, you know, what is the event? What's it about? She was like, oh, well, it's actually like a well-being event. And she went, I've got a few guest speakers. And my ears just wagged, and I just said, can I be a speaker? And she was like, oh, right, and what about? And I said, I've got a story. It's going to be around men's mental health. And she went, right, okay, well, I've got them all booked. Let me have a look. Anyway, she called me a few days later. She said, right, I'm going to book you as a speaker. She went, what's your talk called? You know the answer. First thing that came into my head, I said, the talk's called Never Throw in the Towel. Was really like, this was the first time that I'd ever opened up publicly about my own struggles. So I was extremely, there was obviously this negative voice going, what are you doing? You know, should you do it? Don't do it. And, you know, public speaking's terrifying, but it was all drowned out by passion, and it was drowned out by the story. And when I'd done it, there was two men who literally came up to me and gave me a hug. And then I started getting multiple messages off people, sharing their struggles, or they knew someone. And I thought, wow, this is impactful. Perfect. This was so timely. So November approached right at this point, and I was like, November, the month of men's mental health, I'm going to do the Never Throw in the Towel project. And that consisted of a few things. One was free haircuts throughout November. Then I decided to do a free man's meetup. Tailed it around everything that I love. So outdoors, we met up in Hampstead Forest. We'd done a walk and talk. We'd done some boxing. We'd done some breath work. And then the breath work prepared us for a cold water dip. 7 men attended that day. And it wasn't in the head to do multiple ones, because it was just like, we're celebrating November. But then we had a small WhatsApp group, everyone who attended, there was a couple of guys that really opened up about their own struggles. So there was like, we came away from it going, wow, this is impactful. They said, you know, will you do another one? So I've done a second one. There was 31 men attend. Oh. It was like, wow, this has jumped up. There was a magical moment that happened when there was 31 turned up. I we'd stayed in for 5 minutes and it was absolutely freezing. It was the beginning of January, it was snowing and everything. And we stayed in for the 4 or 5 minutes, and I said, I made a shout, I said, count down from 10, we're going to dunk under when we get to 0. So we all 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, dunk. We all dunked in, and all of us came out, and it was like, come on. Blokes were cuddling each other, like high-fiving, like this guy. We had a first aid guy. He filmed it. He caught that moment. I put that on socials. It was just went brrrr. ITV Tyne News, seen that, said, can we come to the next one? So I've done the next one. This is a long story, by the way, so I'm apologising, but I can't compromise the story. But there was, 72 turned up on the third one, and it was just like, wow, this is ridiculous. Proof that an act of kindness literally has a ripple effect of good. And then it spiraled, and then I think at this point, it might have been before the third retreat, I'd just had this thought of like, the talk had such impact. What if I combine a barber chair straight after to engage conversation? I think that might be a good idea. So there was a guy whose hair I cut who owns a factory with like 90 blocks. I pitched the idea to him. I said, let me come and talk to your staff, and I'll do free haircuts. I think that'll be really good. I think it's a good idea. I'll do it for free. So he was like, yeah, I think that's actually a good idea. Anyway, done that. There was 3 men that opened up in the chair that day, that session, that had attempted to take their own life. And again, I came away from that going, like, wow, this is such a huge problem. This needs to continue. There needs to be something for men. The research that I'd done from friends who'd worked in male organisations, there was like, there's a woman in HR, like, that's it, really. And I thought there has to be something for men. And the feedback from the first one was fantastic. I got recommended to go on LinkedIn. I was never a LinkedIn guy. Went on there. It just blew up. Started getting contacted from Aldi. Started getting contacted from Amazon. Started getting actually contacted from huge organisations. And it's, I've brought out a documentary on Amazon Prime. Surviving Reality, little pitch if anyone wants to watch it. And it's been a fantastic journey. But this, apologies for the long-winded answer.
No,
It comes from my grandma. It comes from my grandma, and it's fantastic for me because I talk about my grandma for a living now. She's literally behind me when I'm working. There's videos of her. There's slides of her. It's fantastic.
There's a lot to unpack in what you said, so I'm going to try and...
Hey, you're a great listener, you're a fantastic listener, by the way.
Well, it's fascinating to listen. There's 3 things I'm going to try and perhaps just explore a little further, if you don't mind. So I think the first thing that I'd like to understand is, obviously, throughout that period of time, which of course is many, many, many months, what you were fundamentally doing was giving people, men, the opportunity to be able to be internally focused and expressive externally in an environment where they felt at ease. Why are you inspired to do that? What's in it for you?
Well, something that I've discovered at the age, I'm 43 now. If you can actually make impact, try and make change, I found it, I call it like a beautiful way to be selfish, because I can honestly say that how rewarding it is to get a message from someone who said, I've listened to you talk today, or I sat in your barber chair and you don't realise how much you've helped. It just feels incredible. And so helping someone is amazing. And the hidden gem is you get it all back as well.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. So I've never been honestly, I think it's for my mental health, for my mindset, for me as a person. Honestly, I'm just the most happiest. And don't get me wrong, it can have challenges, and sometimes you're having hard conversations and dark conversations at times. But how rewarding I find it is incredible.
And I agree with that, in that I love to do good by others, because indirectly I feel great. So it's a win-win situation, right? Obviously, you've mentioned there, Anthony, that some of the gentlemen that you spend time with, have had difficult circumstances. And as a consequence, they are suicidal. And I'm sure many people you've met have tried to take their own lives, and many may have succeeded. At what point does someone who is depressed and has suicidal thoughts need support? And I mean from a healthcare professional. And how do you think we as a society go about making sure people who need medical help are given it? Because I must say, nowadays, it seems there's a lot more people successfully taking their own lives. And whilst talking about it is a start, sometimes people need more support than perhaps you can achieve through a conversation. So would you just give me your input on that?
Very interesting question. So in terms of like, if you want to break it down for some members to give people knowledge. So if you've got like passive suicidal thoughts, where you are like just wishing you weren't here, and just wish I just don't want to be here, and then you've got active suicidal thoughts where you are planning. That's obviously a code red. That person can't be left. In terms of like what help people get, that one's a tricky one to answer, because there's no silver bullet. For example, therapy. I think men don't like the word therapy. I think there's only 36% of NHS reports of therapy come from males.
Okay.
So it might there's different things that can help. So for example, I think one big thing for men, I think men like community, and a man might get a lot more from community than he might get from a professional who's extremely educated. So it's just fine. It's finding what the right fit is for you. It might not necessarily be, or this person needs to go and see professional help. Actually, this person he needs to get into some more exercising. He needs to start living better, be part of a community. So there's I don't think there's not a silver bullet answer to your question there. I think it all just depends. People can get things from multiple things. I remember when I first discovered cold water, the guy that took me for this cold water retreat, he said cold water saved his life. That was his thing. Some people turn to religion. Some people turn to running. They have to, I've got a friend who works in as a mental health first aider, mental health nurse for the NHS. He has to train. He has to train. And sometimes I know when he's in a bit of a fight, because I'll see he's doing endless amounts of cold water therapy. He's in the sea constantly. He's training, and me and him will reach out and speak and stuff. So there's multiple things. One thing that I will say though, and again, it probably, I hope some people can find this useful from working in the field of mental health. I would probably say the most common thing that I do come up against, whether that's a 47-year-old man that works in construction or a young 16-year-old boy who's struggling with the mental health, the most common answer is, because I always ask the same questions if someone tells me they're struggling with the mental health, I will always ask them the same questions. Are you doing exercise? Are you drinking water? Are you getting out on walks in nature? Are you eating? Are you eating well, nutrition? Are you doing any form of mindfulness tactics like breath work? All of them answers are no. And when I'm speaking to grown-ups, I ask them, are you drinking alcohol? And the answer is yes. I recently asked this to a guy who told me, and he worked in construction, and he said yes to alcohol. I said, how often are you drinking? He said, every night. So for me, and I don't mean to sound like weird saying this, but there's a part of me like, to a certain extent, likes hearing that, because in my thing is, this can be easily fixed. You can, in the amount of people, honestly, there's one guy called Jamie, and he always repeats this to me. He's part of the community of Never Thrown the Towel. Great lad, and he was struggling, really struggling, and me and him spoke, and he'd had a split up with his girlfriend, and I said, the advice I gave him was, do me a favour, don't drink, stay off the drink. I said these words, get in the best shape of your life. Get in the best shape of your life. He literally done that. By 7-8 weeks, he literally looked incredible, felt amazing, and he always says, I'll never forget when you said, just get in the best shape. In them simple instructions, and don't get me wrong, there's multiple things, like that's just not one fix. Again, there's no silver bullet.
No.
But if you live shit, there's a good chance you will feel shit. If you live good, you've got a lot better chance of feeling better, doing them fundamentals.
Do you think when someone is depressed and are showing signs of depression, do you think people always know they are depressed? Or do you think they are people who are walking around, not feeling great, maybe calling it a bad day, but don't actually know just how not well they are?
I think that'll happen all the time, to be honest. I think that'll happen. I mean, back when I was struggling, mental health wasn't a word.
That's why it wasn't really considered a thing, wasn't it? Even though, of course,
No.
depression and,
Yeah, no, I think there'll be lots of people that'll just be plodding along.
yes.
You again, getting into the example that I've just mentioned. I'm feeling terrible. I'm so down. But they're not aware of, actually, you aren't doing any of the fundamentals to keep on top of your physical and mental health. You're not doing anything, so of course you're not feeling good. So yeah, I think there'll be a lot of people that won't be aware of it.
And just ask like a really basic question. Obviously, if you want to be physically fit, you do sport, you do exercise, you go gym. So what do you actually recommend people do to be mentally fit? What can you actually do to train your brain to be mentally fit?
Well, the thing is, you've mentioned about physically fit, but the thing is, it runs full circle. It completely runs full circle. So I would always say, I would lean towards the physical, because guess what? You start getting physical fit, the mind follows. It's literally full circle. There's one of my slides that I use from, I forget her name. She's a doctor, and it's a picture of two brains. Picture on the right is completely, the colour and everything is so different, and it's simply off a 20-minute walk.
Wow.
And it's proof that literally the mind and the body run full circle. So that I would say, to get on top of your mental fitness, get on top of your physical fitness, because it runs full circle.
So obviously, throwing the towel is your now full-time focus. Presumably that's now the thing that you're most passionate about.
Yes.
What's your overarching plan long term? Because of course you've talked about how from a very small cohort you've now built a significant movement, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
So what's coming next then?
I've got something really exciting that that I've been cooking up for quite a while. So I've just got on this program called The Stable.
Okay.
Absolute fantastic program. So I had to, you've got to be from Teesside, and I think your business had to be under 2 years. And I had to go, and it was really cool. I loved the process. You had to pitch, so it was a bit like Dragon's Den. Had a panel, people asking.
The business owners pitching to you.
I was pitching to them.
Ah.
Yeah, so I was pitching to them to get on the program.
Right.
I think there was 24 spaces, and there was lots of people that went for it. So basically, what it is, it's a program. It's a 6-month program, and you get paid for 6 months. And you get a couple of grants, and the finale, right at the end of the 6 month, they put a load of investors in front of you, and you basically get to pitch. So my idea is, it's a community-based platform tailored to men for mental health, because, like I said, men, they don't use what, there's so much help out there. Men don't use it. What do men need? We need a safe space. We like activities. We like goals. We like community. We love being in a brotherhood. Most of us like being in some form of tribe community. We love all that. So that's what I'm providing. It's going to be all around proactively keeping on top of the fundamentals. So I'm going to be selling that to individuals, and I'm going to also be selling that to corporate. So I'm cooking up that. Really, really excited about expanding and doing that. I'm about to set up. So I hold monthly free meetups. I've held a free meetup every single, ever since I've done the first one. So I'm looking that they've always been free. So I'm looking to set up a community interest company, a CIC. So there's going to be Never Throw in the Towel Project, which is a limited company, and then there's going to be the Never Throw in the Towel Kick. So once I get that in place, I'm hoping to get funding and then expand and have ambassadors holding their own Never Throw in the Towel project in different locations around the northeast, always around a cold water spot. And again, just making bigger impact, helping, and it's again continuing the journey.
Wow, I mean, it's really inspiring. Because of course, whilst there are perhaps some economic benefits of the business you describe, of course, it is about doing a good thing for the benefit of many, isn't it? And that is something that perhaps not many people see as their priority. So really inspirational, Anthony, that you clearly feel you've got a calling to help others. I think other people perhaps should consider a similar calling, perhaps, because will be a greater place, right?
Purpose. I'll just jump in there though. Again, though, that's I think that's sometimes when people might struggle with the mental health. Later, you get in your late 40s, 50s. You've got married. You've got the career. You've had the kids. Purpose. If you have purpose, again, it's so valuable for one. You're doing good, but also again, what you're getting back if you've got purpose, it's it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I'm conscious of time. So my penultimate question is, of course, before the podcast we were chatting, and I know that your wife is expecting your third child in no time. What's the one thing that you get from being a dad that you've never been able to get from any other thing that you've ever done in life, business, Big Brother or otherwise?
Oh, wow. So I always had been dad on such a pedestal. I think it comes really deep rooted that I've not had a relationship myself with my dad. So me being a dad was just the ultimate goal. It's hard to put into words. It's like for me, it's like Christmas every day seeing my kids. Like when what one of my missions, and it might be a little bit self-indulgent, but I think it's still a good way. I want if my kids get asked who the hero is, I'd love them to say dad. And just the love that you get from your kids, it's just magic. I'm so pleased I got to sample that part of life. And I've got two boys, and the cherry on the top, I'm having a girl.
Oh, really? I didn't appreciate that. Incredible.
Yeah, we didn't find out.
Be different.
Yeah, we didn't find out with our two boys. We had a surprise, but then we had we're having the third, and we were both like, we need to find out. We just need to find out this time. And I speak to guys who've got girls, and they all, like my mates who've got girls, and they literally say like, they go like, you do not realize what you feel for your girl. They all, like, I've got one who comfortably says his daughter's his favourite, and he's got a son.
I'm afraid to say I would say that, and I'm talking about also, but my wife, without doubt. So obviously I've only got a daughter, but my brother's got two boys, and honestly, I think the relationship you will have with your daughter will be different.
Yeah.
Obviously, you love your kids,
Yeah,
equally, but I think you'll be more protective.
Yeah.
Of your little princess, whereas boys, you always want them to be quite independent.
yeah, it's a different vibe.
I do think it is, and I've seen my brother and how he's brought up his two boys. It is different to how I my daughter.
Yeah.
All with the same love and intentions, but I think you do approach fatherhood different. So I think you've got lots to look forward to.
Yeah.
My last question, Anthony, is this. So I can see that you're a family man, and of course your grandma, who's no longer with us, was not only your inspiration, but your hero, I think you said yourself.
Yeah.
So if she now was with us and you could ask her just to give you one bit of advice, or just to positively confirm one thing, what would it be? What's the one thing that you would want her to say or to be able to answer as a question?
Wow, that's a great question. The thing is with my grandma, she just worshipped me. So anything that I would love to see what she thinks of the Never Thrown the Towel, what I've done. Like, what do you think what I've done? I would just like to hear what, and I would, thankfully she got to meet me first son. She didn't get to meet me second son. I don't know. It would probably, I can't think of anything at the top of my head, but just to, but I still talk to my grandma. I still, it's been so good for, like, even though I've lost her, the project's helped me so much with losing her, because she's still, I literally talk about her all the time.
It's a legacy, isn't it?
It's a legacy, yeah.
Everything, well, not everything, but a lot of you teach and a lot of the stories you share are celebrating your grandma's legacy. Yeah. So she lives on, right?
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
only inspirational.
Yeah.
Something I'm sure she'd be incredibly proud.
yeah.
Anthony, it has been incredible to have you on my podcast. Massive thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
It has been an absolute pleasure to spend some time today with Anthony Hutton on my Confessions of an Entrepreneur podcast. From humble beginnings here in the Northeast without any education of note, it's clear that Anthony's absolute ambition and focus was to become a professional footballer. In his absolute grit, determination, and resilience, for sure, for most people would have led them to believe that he would make it. But as Anthony admitted, perhaps wit, determination, and hard work only takes you a certain way. Perhaps his ability is what let him down. He needed a line in the sand. He was looking for a break. He didn't know what to do next. And that is why he put himself in the right place at the right time, and of course found himself not only appearing on Big Brother, but winning Big Brother. And again, I think it's clear from today's podcast that he went on Big Brother with one objective, which was to win. And everything he did during the entire experience, consciously or otherwise, was with that one very clear objective in mind. Of course, having won Big Brother, that provided Anthony with the platform that he was looking for in pursuit of success, not really knowing what that looked like, nor felt like. And of course, in his own admission, he didn't really know what would come out of Big Brother, but what he did know is perhaps it would create more opportunity than he had been given in his prior life. Of course, on the back of Big Brother, Anthony became a celebrity, appearing on the front of Hello Magazine, OK Magazine, often appearing on many, many morning TV programs, game shows, and of course, he even wrote a book. But that success, that fame, which of course created a lot of opportunity for Anthony and wealth in turn, didn't last. And of course, as Anthony very honestly explained on the podcast, he again found himself perhaps feeling a little bit lost and lacked purpose. And whilst he'd accumulated a lot of wealth on the back of winning Big Brother, other than his home that he had bought and of course, no doubt, cherished for such a long time, he lost everything as a consequence of not having the right people around him, the wrong support network, and perhaps at that time not really appreciating what he had created. Again, this is another example of where Anthony finds himself learning from adversity, because not only on the back of losing everything did he become depressed and suffered from mental health issues, but at that time, his grandma sadly was diagnosed with cancer. And at that time, he was probably absolutely in search of purpose. And he found that as a consequence of deciding to train to become a barber. That gave discipline, took him away from a network that perhaps wasn't additive to him, bearing in mind you become the people you spend most of your time with. But that's when he started to think about how he could use his own lived experiences of having had mental health issues to benefit others with mental health issues. And of course, that, coupled with, sadly, the passing of his grandma, was when he decided to set up a business to provide support, coaching, and development for those who have or are experiencing mental health issues. Never Throw in the Towel is the business that he's since built. And without doubt, he's done so in a very selfless, very output-driven way, with the sole objective being to provide an open platform, a community for men who might be struggling, whether it be with depression, whether it be with a health issue, whether it be as a consequence of a relationship breakdown, or whether it be just as a consequence of not really knowing where you're going, a lack of purpose. And for sure, Never Throw in the Towel not only is now his sole focus, but of course, it's a business he's built as a legacy and as a bit of a mark of respect to his late grandma, who used those words in her last breath when sadly she passed. Anthony is an inspirational guy. He exists to do good for the majority. And without doubt, his lived experiences now, without doubt, will help others who perhaps today are struggling or tomorrow may struggle. The final thing that I definitely have taken today is the need to be honest and vulnerable. We all have a tough day in the office. We all have a tough month in life. And there's no harm in talking about that freely, whether that be through a formal community group, like Never Throw It in the Towel, or whether it be going out for a glass of wine or a beer with a friend, or chatting to a family member. Point being, we all are here to support each other and no one should ever struggle alone. Thank you, Anthony, for appearing on our podcast. Your learnings and insights, without doubt, will be really invaluable to many of our viewers. You, our viewers, have been watching Confessions of an Entrepreneur, powered by RG. We thank you for joining us. If you would like to download this podcast or any other podcast in our Confessions series, then you can do so from wherever you download and consume your podcasts. But for now, my name is Carl Swansbury. It's been a pleasure having you with us, and I look forward to seeing you, our viewers, on future Confessions podcasts.